Hi guys, Sven and I read a wonderful book. We're super excited about it. We're bummed that we can't do the presentation in person because we're so excited about this book and really want you guys to get as much out of it as we did. So this book is called A More Beautiful Question, The Power of Inquiry to Spark Breakthrough Ideas. Sven and I did this presentation together and read this amazing book. So a little bit about what we're going to cover. We're going to cover the background, a little bit about the author and this book, why we stop asking questions, the importance of questions. We should learn to encourage and ask those provoking questions, and then our conclusion. An amazing quote by Warren Berger. It's easier to act your way into a new way of thinking than to think your way into a new way of acting. What was the reading all about? All of it was about questions. Now, the author, he began as a journalist, then turned into an independent writer for the New York Times, right? So, amazing writer. And he was significantly involved in business communication. So, a lot of what he learned about in business was communication, questions. So a little bit more about the book. It focuses on how asking meaningful questions can lead to creative solutions and new innovations. He applied this both to personal life and the business life. So the more we tell you about it, think of it as your teaching as well as your personal life. Why do we stop asking questions? A lot of times, as you know, as teachers and as mothers and Sven, future fathers, that we all have these children asking us questions after questions, and so many times it's why? Why is the sky blue? Why is the grass green? Wait, why is it raining? And as we all know, that can get a little annoying sometimes. As much as we want to help teach them, it gets a little much. So, killing curiosity. In school, we're rewarded for having the answer, not for asking a good question. Preschool students ask nearly 100 questions a day, as I'm sure you all know this. And by middle school, students are hardly asking any. Parents discourage questions. The brain rewires to decrease that workload. And teachers want answers. They don't want you asking questions. And it follows along with expectations, right? Killing curiosity. In our presentation, there's two really great videos you guys should watch, and it puts this all into a little bit of perspective of how and why we stop asking questions. So why is it important to even ask these questions, right? Like I said, the sky's blue. Okay, good for us, right? But why we should care as teachers and as mothers and parents and aunts and uncles. It is impossible to find new and creative solutions when you're taking the same approach to the same problem as everybody else, right? Transition from short-term solutions to discovering long-term game-changing ideas is why we should also care and ask more questions. Questioning our daily routines and our choices allows us to be more involved in our own lives, right? Such as the gratitude journals or the journals that Sarah has us do. It's these questions that open up our mind and help us click out of our daily brain wiring. How does this apply to our coaching though, right? Asking solid questions as a coach is the key difference between a one-sided discussion and a collaborative learning session, as we are all learning. A well thought out question can give someone who is typically really busy in the moment to step back and examine their own actions, as we all have to do. It pushes coachees to put their thinking into words. It increases their self-awareness and empowers them to uncover new opportunities for personal growth. How do you ask these questions? It's not just asking a question. You have to ask the right question. You begin by asking questions that will build a mutual and trusting relationship between each individual. You ask open-ended questions that encourage more open dialogue, as we've been learning in our class. Too bad we don't have any more for this semester. You do not let the session turn into a venting counseling session, as we have talked about before. Rather, ask questions that open up possibilities not yet considered, right? So as we're being more creative by asking more of these open-ended questions, the coachee then has to step back, like we were saying, to really examine their life and their question, and then learn to question themselves. Asking questions that let you see the situation through the coach's eyes. Therefore, we're out of our own mind, out of our own set expectations, as we've discussed before. But how do we deliver those? Accept that these others are as smart as you, and that habits such as pushing a strong point of view need to be set aside for the time being. For me, especially, when coaching my husband, I am learning to still ask the right kind of thought-provoking questions, because I'm still trying so hard to fix the problem, even in my questioning. So we need to be genuinely curious about the answers to ask those questions. This curiosity will trigger the next question, as we've been learning about in some of these activities in class. We view each question as a building bridge between what was said and what you want to learn. Questions are so important. I feel, as I'm sure a lot of you do and understand, that when you're little, you have more play, you are more creative, you can come up with more things and imagination, and the older we get, we lose so much of that, and I am sad that I did. I don't feel my problem-solving skills are nearly as creative. I talked to my husband a lot about his engineering, and he is constantly coming up with questions because there's more than just one possibility. And our book talks about that, asking questions all the time. One of the stories I got that made such a presence in my life when I was reading this was, there was a young boy who got in an accident and had to have his left leg amputated. And he said he was over at his girlfriend's house, and the father came over to him and set him aside and said, "Hey, you just have to accept that this is how it is now." And he thought to himself, but why? Why does it have to be that way? Through many, many years, I think it took him about 10 years, he is the man who came up with the prosthetic leg that you can run on. He researched cheetahs and how the spring of their foot can make you go faster. This guy questioned, how can I make it better? Because he said, why do prosthetics have to look like feet? Why are they wood feet? We don't have to have that. Because of that question, he was able to make so many people's lives better. And it started with one question: why does it have to be that way? That was very touching and very critical for me. And then they also talked about, why are we unhappy as adults? And he said, go back to your childhood and think about, what did make you happy? What made you happy when you were kids? For me, I had to look back and think, everything outdoors made me happy. I was curious, I was excited, I was questioning, I was making little fairy houses outdoors with my, it's a cute dog, with my little sister. Questioning, please keep questioning. Please let your kids keep questioning, and do your best to foster that creativity. We both, Sven and I, want to thank you for listening to our presentation. Please, if you get a chance, read this book. It is very incredible. And then there's my cat. Thank you all. We appreciate you listening, and we have an incredible handout that definitely makes you think outside and question things.